Okay. One morning, very early, before we had gotten up, the telephone rang. And Daddy answered the phone, and then he handed the phone to me, which was a surprise. And it was a woman talking, and she introduced herself as Gunilla Luboff. And I thought, well, now this is strange. Luboff was a music, uh, uh, he was a printed music, and he had died. I knew he had died. I knew also that his wife was Swedish, and one of Barbie's classmates had worked for the Luboffs as a music publisher. And so I knew a little bit about them, but I, there was no reason that they should know anything about me. But this lady explained that who she was, and she said her husband had died, but they had a house here in the States, and she also had a house in Sweden, and she kept her home there. But she was, and she was currently working for the Swedish TV. And she said they're doing a program in Sweden now dealing with the immigrants. We have so many immigrants currently, and we're exploring what their problems might be. And so the first program we'd like to have would deal with the immigrants, the Swedish immigrants that came to the United States, and what kind of problems they had and how they solved them. But she said that the more recent immigrants, the ones that have come since World War II, are easy to find, but the older immigrants are all, at this point, are all gone, and we're having to go to their children. The problem is children don't speak Swedish, but we understand that you do speak Swedish, and that your parents were Swedish immigrants from around the early 1900s. And I'm here now with a tape recorder, and I would like, if you have time, if you could meet me in Minneapolis today, and we'll sit and record the story of your parents. Am I correct that you speak Swedish? And I said, well, yes, I do. I hope it's good enough, but I'd be happy to tell you the story. So Daddy and I drove up to Minneapolis and met with her in this hotel. And she had her tape recorder with her, and we started in, and she explained who the person was that had recommended me. Well, it was because of my interest in immigration. We attended many meetings that had to do with the immigrant story. And at one of these, well, we met several Swedish scholars that way, and we had met this one gentleman who was also interested in the Swedish labor movement. So he was quite interested in my dad, and he came to the house to visit and saw what materials I had. And he's the one that recommended that they get in touch with me. So I told the story, and that was it, and hoped that she understood what it was all about. And a few days later, I got another telephone call. But this time, it wasn't Gunilla Luboff. It was, I can't recall the name of the person, but it was the person that was in charge of the TV program in Sweden, and she was calling from Stockholm. And she said she had heard the tape, and I said, well, was my Swedish good enough to understand? Oh, yes, she said. In fact, we'd like for you to come and be part of the program. Well, then I had to tell her that we had been to Sweden just the year before, and I couldn't really afford to come again. No, she said, we'll pay your way. If your husband wants to come along, we can only afford to pay your way. But if he wants to come, he can stay at the hotel with you, and we'll put you up in a hotel in Stockholm. Well, I really didn't have any reason to say no if I didn't have to pay for the trip. So it was decided that I would go. Then she told me there were two other people coming. One was from Chicago and one was from Minneapolis, and they were more recent immigrants. So lo and behold, tickets arrived, or a ticket arrived for me to come, and we got a ticket for Daddy too, so that he could go with me. And we met these others up in the cities and flew to Stockholm. And there one of my cousins met us and took us to the Diplomat Hotel, which is right along the waterfront, a beautiful hotel. And when we came in, the what do you call them, that carries your luggage?
Porter?
The porter took us up to our room, and when he opened the door, the television went on, and it said, "Välkommen to Hotel Diplomat, Margit Fredrickson." I just about dropped my teeth. I'd never had an experience like that before. And in the room were two beautiful floral arrangements. And a card on one said it was from the TV station. The card from the other was from my cousin who was in the orchestra in Stockholm. So here was this festive room and a television that talked to me. And the television explained that every time we would come into the room, the television would come on and tell us if there were any messages for us. And then when we walked to the window, we could look right down over the harbor. And I realized we were right back in the neighborhood that my mother had worked in as an au pair when she was probably 18 years old. It was an unbelievable experience. So the other two people, of course, were in this hotel too, and so was the man who had recommended that I come, because he too was going to be part of the program. And we were given instructions that we would have our meals there in the hotel, but in the morning we would walk over to the TV station and get ready for
the interview.
Well, get ready for the interview. Prepare ahead of time, the day ahead of time. So that's exactly what happened. We did walk over to the television station and met this Birgitta Sundstedt, that was her name. And I brought pictures and things with me too, so that they would have pictures of Mama Mutti and any artifacts that I thought would be of interest, and I showed them to her. And we practiced what we were going to say. And then we had a nice lunch together. Daddy, in the meantime, was able to just go sightseeing as much as he wanted to. And we went back to the hotel and had our dinner, and the next morning we were going to, I guess, I can't remember if it was another day that we practiced what we were going to talk about. But finally came the time of the program, and then I had to be there early so we could go to the makeup people. Something absolutely unknown to me. And we spoke the whole time, spoken Swedish, and my Swedish was certainly as good as these other two, but they were born in Sweden, so evidently it wasn't a problem. But they gave us a copy of the program. They made a copy for American TV, so we have that. But to me, that was kind of one of the highlights of my life. But it showed the benefit of knowing a second language. and something that I'd strongly urge for our grandchildren. I'm so glad several of them are knowing foreign languages, because it opens doors that you never realized.
Okay. Click it off.
Hello? Hi. Have you been on film?